Eric had pointed out that this project is in the historic district. And so Elisa and I talked, and so I think we're going to need to talk about the signage. So Elisa, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot and ask you to talk a little bit about that. And I think we need to look at the map and figure out where we can put the signage that we want to accomplish our goals. And I do think after watching Margaret, we're going to have to pare back a little bit to what's realistic and talk about that. But I still think it's well worth going forward. We just have to stay within the parameters that we have. So, Elisa, do you want to start?
Has everybody taken a look at MGL 40C, Section 8? This section addresses signs within a historic district. So I can read it to you real quickly because I have it right here in front of me. In paragraph 7 addresses signs. The first part of that paragraph addresses signs in connection with use of a residence. Then the second half of that paragraph reads as such, and one sign in connection with the non-residential use of each building or structure, which is not more than 12 square feet in area, consists of letters painted on wood without any symbols or trademarks. If it's illuminated only indirectly.
So a quick question on that, because I was going through and I was talking to my dad about this too. We're not looking for a sign in connection with non-residential use of a building or a structure. We're looking for signs that have to do with directionality for locations in a town, not connected with a business or a residence of any kind. So we're looking just like if you were putting up Route 13 or, Groton 5 miles. So it's actually a street sign, not a like business or non-business. So as I was reading through, because I went over to section 6 too, that was confusing to me because this isn't in use of a business or structure, non-residential or residential.
However, if it is placed on the property of such.
How does, I guess, so in conjunction with what Emmy just said, a lot of our signs are on the common as opposed, let me get out my sign map. They are on the
Or they're
common.
in islands. Or they're in one of the islands.
Or they're in one of the islands. So how, I guess, how does that fit with
the island on, would it be Brookline Street? Is that what you're speaking of? The island?
Across from St. John's, say. The one on the corner of Highland and Brookline. And
Brookline.
In the middle of the road. In the middle of the road there.
It's an island, yeah. And then there's another island.
If you look at the historic district outlined map that I sent you, that island that is at the end of Highland Street there is not included in the historic district.
Okay, so we could put signs on that island right there at Highland and Brookline. And then there's another island that comes up Brookline Street at Highland. So on, at the other end, do you know where I mean? Like right across from St. John's. Looking
that little.
Oh, right. Yes, that is not included in the historic district.
So, but again, within the historic district, if we're looking to put up a sign at the edge of Howard Street and the corner of Howard Street and Highland at the tip of Evans on that, there's that telephone pole, sign, rock, ledge corner area. That is not within 12 square feet, but that is within the historic district. But again, it's not a business sign or residential sign, nor will it be temporary. It would be a sign that said Howard Park with a directional arrow, which would be considered a town street sign. So that would just be like the green ones that we already have out there. Right?
Right. So it's the property included with the structure. So Evans would include Evans Building and their parking lot. That road island outside of Evans is not a historic structure. So that is not under our review.
Okay, so we could put a sign there then.
And I don't know who you get approval from to do that.
Well, that would just be because it's within the 16 feet easement, which includes town use, which I believe I did, like I said, I did go back and check, and my understanding is still at 16 feet. There's some areas that is. But yeah, I wasn't quite, like I said, I'm just not quite sure what would be considered a structure. Is the entire common considered a structure, or is that just considered public land?
The entire common is protected by the historic district. The common is a structure or
okay. So in the parking lot, if we wanted to do one of the flat signs that is like a reader sign that says you are here, we're not able to do that because that is in the common.
Right. And
or we are, as it follows within the rules.
As it states, one sign. So there is already one sign allowed on the common, and that is the two posts that state town business, town meeting, band concerts. So there's the one sign there. Yes, we get political signs, but we can't touch political election signs.
Okay, but then on the corners, we have the posts that say 119 Townsend, 13 Pittsburgh on the metal posts with the green actual street signs. So can we not use those?
That I believe, if I'm correct, and then this is just a guess, that is outside of the common. Although we typically don't like big yard sale signs and stuff like that there, that might be DOT. If you're utilizing, I'm not sure of that. I don't have the resources at the moment to know that. Maybe Jim or the highway department might be able to give you exacts on that.
This is actually a Mass DOT grant that we're applying for. That's whose purview it's under. So
yeah, when
I
was thinking about it.
So what we need to find out is, can we put a sign on the street signs or outside of the common fence? Is that what you're saying, Elisa?
That is my question as well. If that would fall under DOT approval, town approval, but it cannot be within the confines of the common.
And is the common defined by the black fencing, the metal fencing that goes around?
And the property included with that is the parking lot as well.
Okay. All right, so that's one thing we need to find out. All right, so I guess right now the signs that we have on the common, we need to find another place for them.
Or if there's street signs already placed conveniently that we can utilize within those posts.
Correct.
That was my only thought, because I know when we were trying to get a sign for the rec building, because we can't put it on the brick because of the condition of the brick, but it's temporary, like we can have our flag hang, which is a temporary, but I know for the other structures, street signs, obviously, there's a street sign that says Riverbank Terrace that's right there next to the building. That could be used for a directional sign pointing towards public parking, but we couldn't stick another sign next to our flagpole on our lawn next to the front of the building, because that's within the property lines. So that's what I was trying to, like, as I was going through the notes that we had from our signs before, I was like, well, and driving through over the weekend, where do we already have street signs that we might be able to utilize to put up the trail signs or street signs that are already MassDOT approved by their symbols and markers? Adrian, do you know stuff about that?
Also, the library, the old library is not within the district and on the same corner.
So we could put a sign on that corner, just sideways across from the rec building, Emmy. And that's actually where I thought we were putting those two, the parking sign and a trail sign, right on that corner across from you. So on a little, so what about the bike station, the bike repair station that we were hoping to put behind the rec building so that the kids could learn to fix their bikes? Is that a possibility? Or do we need to move that down to the parking lot on Jeff Street, which is outside of the historic district? We wanted it behind the rec building because we thought it would be safer as far as vandalism went.
Yeah, and use, but that wouldn't be considered a building change. That's like, when I was in 6 and 8, that wouldn't be, that doesn't look like it would be anything that would be.
Signage.
I know that for complete streets, when I looked at complete streets, they were putting a bike rack in the town hall parking lot.
Yeah, because it's not part of the exterior design, building structure, or exterior architectural features.
Correct.
Right? So is that right, Elisa? Like something like a bike repair station or a bike rack, that would be considered part of the public works? Like a driveway?
I'm not sure. And I'm not going to, I would hate to speculate without knowing exactly. And this has brought up a list of things that need clarification. But no, you're not changing the structure or architect of the historic building.
Yeah, you're not changing the land.
To me, in my opinion, that sounds like you're having a service. There's a service provided there.
Yes.
And what would that consist of? Is that going to be another building or just an open space place?
It's like a kiosk. It's like a small kiosk that has like bike repair tools attached to it.
So that's not a sign.
Yeah, it's not a building or any sort of like
but it's a sign.
Structure.
But it's a sign.
Really a sign.
Well, it's not a sign as such. It might have directions on it saying lift up here.
Just wording, which is a sign.
I'm sure it would have like an instruction like turn the handle for the pump as part of it,
That's wording.
Yeah, I think it would have wording on it probably.
So I guess the question is then at town hall, when they added the box for putting your voter, your ballot in, did that have to be approved by the Historic District Commission? Because there are two boxes outside that have words on them with directions.
That's election and town business use. And I can't speak to that. We'd have to have further clarification from the town when it comes to elections and town business during COVID times, perhaps is why those boxes are out there. That's a big variable. With the town hall closed, it could be that they had to have those there for public because the town hall was closed for COVID. COVID thing is, I really can't speak to that there because they may have a whole other set of guidelines for what they have to provide to the community during these COVID times if the town hall is inaccessible. especially voting, dropping off voting, whatever. So that's sort of outside of, I think, what you're looking to do.
Can I share my screen? I pulled up, there's one of the sites that we've been looking at. There's 4, and Jen had sent this to me. There's 4 different styles. There's one that's just a wheel chalk, and then there's a couple of public work stands. Can I pull that? Can I share my screen, Hartley, so that we can just take a quick look at what it would look like? There's one that's a wall mount.
It looks like he gave it to you.
Let's just recall that it says one sign. You want to put a kiosk, which is going to be considered a sign, he has wording on it, whatnot, that will always negate your recreation committee from wanting to put a sign up.
Right, so I'm not looking at a sign. Hartley, I can't get into screen share. It's host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, I thought it said Emmy Hoff. Maybe he did your other sign in. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, maybe he did my phone one instead.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't screen share off my phone.
Right.
Hartley, can you open it like fully for participant instead of just singly? See if you can do that. So it would make it okay. Well, let me.
You also have a town building, which is the old library.
I'm not sure what's going on. Let me just
So Veronica,
for half a second. I'm just going to go ahead and pull it up.
So I'll remind you all while you're looking that up that you have the old library across the street from the recreation. That's a town property.
Right.
Outside of the historic district, has a place to pull in. Just a thought.
Okay. So Emmy's bringing
You've got
up.
a lot of traffic in and out of the town hall, right there. You're thinking about the parking lot where the rec center, if it got clogged up. But here's the old library over there, which is a town building with a pull-in parking lot.
That is another option. Emmy's trying to show the stations, what it looks like. So can you lift it up, Emmy, a little bit? I guess the screen share isn't working for her, but
No, let me see. Let me pop around the back.
Fine.
That way I can see what we're sort of looking at here. Okay, so there's this one here. There's no signage attached to it at all, as you can see. It's literally just the small station. There's tools hanging. This one has a pump. This one has a little thing right in there. I don't know if you can see. There's a little, like, underneath it.
Oh,
This one actually hangs on a wall. And there's all the tools just hanging from it. And that's a wheel chalkboard. So you would put your wheel in there to steady your bicycle while you worked on it. So that's what they look like.
Okay, so there's no sign with any verbiage involved.
No, well, on this one, there's the little
Directions.
but there's no signs.
Right. Those are cool.
Yeah. So
Mike, just from a safety Sally point of view, your parking lot for the rec center, where you have people in and out utilizing the rec center.
Yeah.
And people also in and out from the town hall, people coming up and down Jeff Street, whatnot. That library, that old library, that just sits there. And there's a pull-in parking lot. What a great way to utilize that space.
that's something to consider.
I'm thinking
but-
about safety.
But it also shares that driving, I mean, because it's got the little parking lot right there, but it's also kind of, I mean, it's not separated at all from the parking of the house that's right next door to it.
Yes, it is. The house has a driveway. The library has its own little parking lot.
Well, I think it's something we can consider. But the thing is, that building could be used for something different in the future. And if it's at the rec center, it eliminates kids basically going back and forth across the road there. That's, a positive for putting it at the rec center. So it's something that we can consider. I don't know what the use of the old library is going to be in the future. I know there's been all sorts of different talks about what to do with that building. So to put it's something to consider is all I'll say about that. So.
Yeah.
Well, what you're looking at is a piece of equipment that you're going to be able to pump up the tires, so you can have compressed air or something hooked into it, or it's
No.
It's just a hand
not a
pump.
building, just a hand pump. Okay,
Yeah.
so that would not be considered a sign.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Adria. Adria put in the chat the link that Emmy was showing us the pictures of, so we can look at it.
Thanks, guys. I'm trying to maneuver between my phone and my computer, and I'm like, I can't. And then it's 12 miles of paperwork on my desk. I'm like, I can't.
And it looks like I might have share screen. Oh, you know what? Never mind. I thought maybe I could share something in the future if you wanted to give me a link, Emmy, but it looks like it's disabled for me as well. So I'll just post in the chat.
All right.
let's-
Awesome. Thanks, Adrian.
So that you guys can move on to your other business. I see a T on your map for trail sign, and that looks to be on Anderson's property.
Where? Which one are you looking at?
At Depot Street, Depot and 119.
Yeah.
Right, which is a one-way street.
Yeah.
That is within the historic district, and Anderson's already has a sign.
Okay, so maybe we can just eliminate that one for now. Or another thought I had was to move that T and that P to the corner of Bow Street, if we could. I wanted to drive around and look at what sort of street signs we have there. But
Yeah.
That is outside of the district.
I don't see Depot Street in the circle of the district. Where on Depot Street does it start?
it's,
map
right,
that we-
it's right at the
Come
line.
behind Anderson's.
The line that's on the map that we have is a little bit off. I asked that question too, Emmy, but we
Yeah,
can't
so-
put it on that side of Depot Street. We can put it at the other side, but that's just a really bad spot with
Yeah. The gas station.
with the gas station. So my thought was
Pedestrians.
to take
Yeah.
that T right there at Depot and 119
Put it over on
and
Bow.
the P that we have by Honeyland Farm and
Yeah.
move them to the corner of Bow Street.
Yeah.
Across from McNabb's sideways. Or to look and see where there's a street sign at Bow Street. I'm not really sure where it is,
Okay.
but that's my thought. So move those two to the outside. So I'm going to get my, I'm going to make our map a little bit busier, or maybe I'll put it on the one that Elisa sent. I'll get my graphic artist in residence to move things around for us so that we can define the historic district on our map and also look at where we can put maps outside. So I just wanted to look at the signs that we have on the map that we have. So starting right there at Bow Street, going up Bow Street on the bike trail and making that left, we have a railroad sign, which I think we were putting on the island. Is that correct?
Yes.
That one can stay.
Yeah.
No issues with that. Going up Route 13, where we have the QTT way up by the police station, even though it looks closer on this map, those can stay. Same thing going up Highland Street, the signs for Old Meeting House Park, those can stay. No problem there. So then going down Highland Street towards Evans, we had a railroad sign right at the corner of School Street, I believe.
Yeah, but that's within the
pointing people
district.
places. That's that X. I believe that can stay as long as we keep it. I wanted to ask Elisa, our railroad signs, I am imagining signs like this. This is a piece of wood. This is a piece of wood. If we have to
Yeah.
have that, and we can write, paint on both sides, Howard Park, Old Meeting House Park, blah, 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 whatever we're putting on there. And can we do that as long as total, the signs are not more than 12 feet? So if we have a 3 foot, a 3 foot, a 3 foot, and a 3 foot, would we be meeting the standard?
It's 12 square feet. Are you speaking about the island that's built into the road there?
Well,
not on-
the island that's built into the road at Brookline and Highland, I assume we're cool on that.
No, I'm talking back to where you're speaking about.
Right at the
You're
end of School
speaking
Street.
about,
Yep, right at the
Evans?
end of School Street.
is it not, if it's not on Evans' property, it's not on the rectory property, but I believe, isn't there a small island there?
There is. They put it in when they redid the road.
Right. That is not a historical district. That's not a historic structure.
Okay, so we can put a sign on that island. Okay,
It
I
is
just wanted to define.
what's
This is
under,
okay.
right. If it's not on Evans' property, would include their parking lot and the
Okay.
rectory. But that in between those two spaces, you do have that little built in out island there within the road.
Okay, so we're good with that. Our Howard Street sign should be good. Coming down Highland Riverbank Terrace, that should be good as long as they're on the outside of the historic district. Our Jeff Street parking should be good. So the only ones that we need to consider are the ones right there on the common. And unless they are attached to a street sign, we really can't put anything on the common. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
I
so
don't-
I think we're in pretty good shape. We just need to, the things I wrote down is, can we put a sign on the street signs and outside of the fencing on the common? So we can explore that.
Yeah, I
And,
would bring you back probably to Eric or DOT if you're utilizing a DOT pole.
Okay.
That's my guess. That's
All
my
right,
guess.
so we're going to need someone to look into that, so we'll get to that at the end. We really only have an hour because I'm trying to be respective of the times that people have
If
for
you have
other
further
things during the
questions-
day. Pardon
If
me?
you have further questions, feel free to call me.
Okay, Elisa, I did have one question. We had talked with Margaret about, she had mentioned these poles, putting up these like flexible poles at the corner of Honeyland Farm, right along the road, so that to keep people from cutting the corner there. Do those fit within the historic district? They're not signs.
They're considered a temporary sign. Yeah, it's still Honeyland Farms has a sign.
I know, but there's no writing on it. It's these flexible thingies.
Right,
I don't know
no,
what they're called.
Not within, not on Honeyland Farms property.
Is there anything that
No.
is allowable to curve traffic on that corner because of the parking lot there? What would be allowable, I guess is the question. You don't have to answer it right now, but you might want to look at that.
Yeah, for me, like I'm reading section 8, number 1, temporary structures or sign, that's not under the review by the commission. Those can be excluded, may be constructed or altered within the historic district without review. So temporary structures are signs subject, however, to such conditions
Fine,
as
woman.
duration of use, location, lighting, and removal of similar matters as may be reasonably justified. So if we're looking at it as a safety hazard issue, is that something that we'd be able to pull? And again, that would be something I think, Elisa, that would be in your tighter bylaws versus just the Massachusetts ones for the decisions that Townsend's already made.
Temporary signs are allowed to be up for 2 weeks and then taken down.
Okay.
Honeyland Farms has a sign. So there's a sign under one sign. Honeyland Farms has their sign. Temporary
Okay,
signs
but the poles
are limited.
We're looking at temporary structure. They're like posts.
I know what they are, yeah. We had, yes, we've had them put up before in other places within districts. But they cannot be permanent.
Okay, so we'll take
You
a
have
look at
permission
that.
from the owner of Honeyland Farm.
Oh, okay.
Who do you, but they fall under our jurisdiction as well.
Okay, so we'll go forward and figure out what we could do there, if anything.
Right,
So,
it's still, Honeyland Farms has one sign.
okay,
That's where you're running into a challenge, is because these businesses have one sign. And
okay.
that's the limit.
All right, so going
I
back to our,
understand everything. What you're doing is groovy.
thank you, Elisa, for
Awesome.
You
Thanks,
know.
Lisa.
explaining all to
Thank you.
us. And we'll go forward doing what we can. So, all right.
If further questions, feel free to call me.
Okay, thank you. So I
Thank
think
you.
we've done 1 and 2, the historic district discussion and wayfinding, pretty much. It was rethinking the number and placement of signs. We have a little bit more to talk about there, but I want to go down to number 3, to bike lanes, because that was a really good discussion on Thursday. I do want to say on Jeff Street, my thought was to make it one way from the parking lot. So right at your house, Jen, from the parking lot all the way down Jeff Street, the town hall parking lot, not the Jeff Street parking lot, the town hall parking lot.
So the entrance to the one-way would be near the rec center on Riverbank?
You could go in and out on Riverbank Terrace, so you could get into the town hall parking lot both ways.
Okay.
Going in and coming out.
Okay.
But if you wanted to go down Jeff Street, it's one way starting at your house. Or
Okay.
right behind the old library, all the way down around the corner and down. So that was my thought. Did anybody have a different thought on that? I mean, I know you guys had talked about this with Rec.
Yeah, it's something we've talked about numerous times. Kathy and I have talked about numerous times. Every time voting happens or every time there's a big town meeting, it's just such a danger zone. So it's not just been talked about here. I mean, it has been talked about previously about something that we'd really like to do. And I think it's going to be a matter of, I don't think it's impossible. I think it's going to be a matter of buy-in, though, from people like Jen that live on the street as well. But I think all of this has to be couched, and this is a public safety issue, yes, it's a recreation issue. Yes, it's a conservation, but this is truly, we're looking at public safety and community safety to be able to use our town. And I agree. I think that town hall parking obviously needs to be an in and out. But I think beyond that should absolutely be one way. It needs to be. If the town ever expects to use Jeff Street parking as actual public parking known to the public, or to actually use Adams Dam and the trestle as part of our historic and conservation efforts or recreation efforts. And if we're looking eventually to, again, put the fitness centers, do a community garden in that area, we're going to have to make it one way. We just can't have cars back and forth on that area. At least, that's my thought just from living here as a business, I guess, for this period of time. But Jen could speak to it better. She lives in a house here, so residential coming in and out, that would be more on her end.
Disagree with any of that.
Do you know how your neighbors feel about it, Jen?
My neighbors feel exactly the way that I do. I remember when I first moved here, the neighbors are like, please keep your kids off the street. This street people whip through. The traffic on, that elbow from Jeff's to Riverbank, people cutting through has always been a safety concern. Our kids are hyper aware of the traffic and looking across the street. And I think that would be a great situation to have it one way at my house, allow people to come in and out of the town hall. And that would almost force a situation for people to come in through Jeff Street to get into that parking lot. It would almost sort of bring awareness. Also, it would mean that nobody would really have to go to my end of the street from that way unless they live there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to disagree with any of it.
So I guess we need to figure out what needs to be done to make Jeff Street one way within the next 3 weeks. Not to turn it one way until like the end of May, but to get the buy-in that we need and to figure out.
From my neighbors, do you need me to speak to them? Are you going to need like a petition or anything like that? I don't know how it works.
Neither do I. So I guess we need to find out how it works, what needs to be done.
Let me know.
Make, Jeff's one way, but that's the direction. So with that said, do we want to go forward with a bike lane down Jeff Street? And if we do make it one, what are the conditions? If we can make it one way, what kind of bike lane do we want? She had the two-way ones and then the one-way ones. And she had questions in the email that she sent to all of us that need to be answered about this. Do I know this email? I do.
So Jen is like the fount of bike lane information. She sent an email for Cambridge's that actually showed a lot of the pictures. Margaret had shown a couple during the call, but Jen sent one, and I think I forwarded it to everybody, that showed a bunch of pictures of like 12 different types of bike lanes, so that we sort of had an idea. Yeah, when we talked about it. And I'm wondering if we make Jeff's a one-way, if we should make that bike lane a two-way. Because
on
now we
Jeff
have
Street, that's what I think, yeah.
And that's sort of what Margaret was saying about Depot Road too. The roads that are the one-way, it makes sense to have two-way bike lanes because we have that extra space, and now we've created that slow down effect.
Joan, do you want to weigh in on this?
I think that's a great idea because say you park at Jeff Street and take your bike down to the rail trail, it's got to be two-way because how do you get back to your car without endangering
Going through the middle of town, right, yeah. And what about Bow Street? Because that's a one-way street too.
Yeah, I think that's what brought it up in the first place was Bow Street, right, Joan? Because you were talking about, we were trying to get off of Route 13 and 119.
Right.
Yeah, I like the contraflow bike lanes as well. I think if we can't get buy-in for Jeff Street going one way, my concern is an already narrow two-way street with a bike lane is even narrower, and it might add to the lack of safety there. So that would be my only concern if we can't get the buy-in for the one way, that a bike lane there might make it more dangerous.
So I would say if we can't get one way, no bike lane on Jeff Street.
And I do think that between the residents buy-in, conservation's weigh in on it, to protect that back area as much as possible, talking with, the Squanicook River Rail Trail, obviously because of access. And then again, even those here in Town Hall, like Kathy, who deals with the mass amounts of traffic and her employees and what have you for the voting periods of time. I feel like if that's going to be a part of the equation is making sure that we have the support that we need to do that. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I'm with you, Veronica. I don't know if it's a matter of, is it something that we have to get approved from DOT? Is it something we have to get approved by highway? Is it something that the BOS decides? Like, I don't. the police department, like, I don't know.
Yeah, so neither do I. So I will take that on, what needs to be done to make Jeff Street one way. And I'll find out, I'll talk to Jim Kreidler and we'll go from there, figuring out what we need to do to make that happen. So that's a town road, luckily. It's not a, state road. So that should be a decision. It's just, what do we need to do? All right. So on Depot and Bow Street, the contra lanes, and what about School Street and Water? That's another narrow, but it's residential. So what are our thoughts there?
I think School Street has plenty of room for
Joan, I didn't hear you.
You could paint a small bike lane on both sides. School Street's pretty quiet and pretty wide. You could almost paint a bike lane
on both sides. Okay, so one-way bike lane, both sides.
Okay.
All right, so I'll find out about Jeff Street, and when we talk, reporting out to Margaret, we're going to say Depot and Bow, two-way contra bike lanes, School Street one-way bike lanes, if it's doable, and then I will find out what we need to do to make Jeff Street one way, and then that will be contra. If we can't make it one way, no bike lane there. Signage, et cetera, but no bike lane. So.
But maybe we can put the signs that are like the caution signs, children live here, or, caution high traffic area. At least we could do that maybe if we can't get it to be one way. Because again, we're looking at creating that corner and this back area of Town Hall. And considering the parking's already back there, we're trying to really start making this the heart of the town, like the activity center of the town. And if we can't physically make it safer by changing the directionality of the road or expanding the road, then we should at least be at the very least putting up caution signs for children at play or something along those lines.
Okay.
Bad idea. I last summer, I think I was bicycling down Post Street and the neighborhood kids were all out there with chalk and that's what they were writing in the road. Gosh, kids. So they were taking it up in their own hands.
So it needs done. If the kids are doing it, it needs done.
I cheer them on. You get some real activists and girls.
Slow down.
Okay, so is there anything else we should talk about with bike lanes? We want to keep the bike lanes where we have them, with the exception of Jeff Street, and that's a conditional.
Yeah. And did you add that?
By the way, when they.
Oh, right. Highland Street.
Right.
Down to 119.
Yeah.
Thank you. I keep forgetting that.
I only remembered because I was sharing, I gave Bonnie a copy of the maps and I was like, oh yeah, there's this other spot too that we didn't put in.
Yep, we'll get that in. So you'll be getting a new updated map.
And what goes on Highland Street?
A bike lane. The extension that goes from School Street all the way down where it's one way, down to, and that will be just a single bike lane, not a contraflow, correct?
Yeah.
That's also a one-way bike lane. Okay. All right, I'll put that in. You'll be getting a new map and a new abstract updated. Anything else on bike lanes before we go on to pedestrian crosswalks? We have about 10 minutes left.
We're good.
Okay, pedestrian crosswalks. It seems to me, Carolyn sent me more stuff from Complete Streets, and I cannot find a flow study or a crosswalk study in any of that. And what Jim sent it has the positions of the crosswalks, but it doesn't give background for why. The planning board, the town is currently having a walkability and bikeability study done through the planning board. The planning board had requested grant assistance for this about a year and a half ago, and it came through, and the bikeability and walkability study is being done now in the center of town, and then from the center of town down to the high school. Beth sent me just yesterday the map that Sherry Bean, MRPC, is doing it, and the map that the points of interest, the places that they're going to be looking at. So I think perhaps that's one of the studies that we're looking at. I know from Beth and I are both now on the Montechusett Joint Transportation Commission, where a lot of things get decided as far as roadways, sidewalks, et cetera, circles. And that's how we found out about the bikeability, walkability study grant funding. So I've been on that for about a year and a half. Beth would attend when I couldn't for the planning board, and now she is the planning board rep and I'm the selectman rep. So I think we can find out what those studies are and see that we get them done. There will be other grant opportunities. We're trying very hard to make our community a safe routes to school community. And the meeting with the school district hopefully will happen the week after school vacation week in February. But there are grant funding for routes to school, and a lot of the crosswalks that we're looking at could be part of that. So I am thinking that we need to back off on the crosswalks, and if we do anything, request new paint for painting the existing crosswalks so that you can actually see them, because I did take a ride through town before the snow, and it's sad. I mean, you can't, at McNabb's, at Honeyland Farms, the one over to Anderson's, the center of town, they are desperately in need of new paint. So I think that what we should request is paint for repainting or restriping of the areas in the center of town. Adria just put in the chat, can we include photos of existing conditions of crosswalks in the grant application to help visualize the need? That is a good idea. So we might have to get out there soon.
The other question about that, and I've seen it on some crosswalks. So other than the paint being slightly reflective, there's actually a reflective treatment that can be done. It's kind of, because I lived in California, it's almost like a reflective dash that can be done within the crosswalks. And I'm wondering if that's something that we could, and you know what, maybe I'll talk to Jim and I'll take that on and see if there's something additionally we can do to the current crosswalks to make them not just painted better, but actually more visible for cars coming up on it or what have you, especially at the dusk hours. I mean, we're in New England, so like dusk seems to be like half the day, most of the seasons.
The other thing that I'm thinking, so talk to Jim, ask him about signage too, pedestrian crossing, the state law stop. If you go through Concord, Mass, for example, or other towns, you see the signage that says, hey, stop for people in the crosswalk,
Right, we don't have those anywhere.
Even the crosswalk, I went from Hannaford, I did senior hours at Hannaford this morning for milk, bread, and eggs. Anyway, going from Hannaford, I had to go to town hall to pick up my packet. And I checked out all the crosswalks, and even the really bad one in front of Sterilite. Yeah. There is a pedestrian crossing sign on that curve before you get to Sterilite traveling west on 119. But the crosswalk you can barely see. I mean, it's like an idea on the road as opposed to actual.
Can I add?
Beth.
Can I add something? This is Beth Saxon. I was wondering if I could add something. Or just
absolutely.
Okay, aren't there temporary sort of like traffic cone pedestrian crossing signs that might be an ask under this grant, since it's kind of a sort of a temporary thing? And they're like, aren't they like waist height or something? Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yes, kind of in the middle of the road.
In the middle of the road.
Yeah, or on the sides or in the middle or whatever. And I was thinking of this sort of grant where it's going to be quick install, and maybe this is something that could be a purchase and then put them at the key areas for now.
And then we could keep them and put them back out when people start going too fast again. Yeah, that's a good idea. So, Emmy, you're going to check into all the crosswalk stuff.
I will connect with Jim in the next couple of days and figure out what they know about the crosswalks and what sort of, what sort of information they have about that sort of stuff.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes left. So can we just go through a list of TBDs here? First one for me is wayfinding. I'm going to move the signs out and put the historic district on our map. Actually, Dennis is going to do that, and I'll get that map back out to you guys. I might try updating the abstract as well, but Joan, you were talking about charting it and making it so we have GPS, but maybe Margaret does that. I'm not really sure.
Well, I did start it. Actually, I apologize. I'm a little behind.
Oh, that's okay. Joan, what I'll do is I'm going to update my abstract and I'm going to send it to you. And then if you can send out the chart that you're making when you've got it done. And that way we'll start going from your chart as opposed to my listed abstract.
Great, yeah, because I'm working on an old version of your abstract, so an updated one would be helpful.
Okay, so let me get that to you. I'll update the abstract.
Also, I did put the grant application on Google Docs, and
thank you.
I just got to figure out how to send that to everybody.
All right, that sounds good. And when you use Google Docs, do you have to have a Gmail address?
Nah, I don't think so. If I send the link to you properly.
Okay.
Well, I'll have to test it out. I'll try it.
Yeah. All right. So, Joan, you're going to test out Google Docs, and I'll get the updated abstract. Should I send it to everybody, the updated abstract?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, Joan, you work on the chart so that we're all continuing to move forward.
Sure.
All right. On the bike lanes, I will try to figure out, I will find out what needs to be done to make Jeff Street one way. Is there anything else we need to do with bike lanes at this point?
So, Jen, do you want to have some more conversations maybe with your neighbors, and since you do conservation, maybe have that as sort of start floating that out there so that it doesn't come as a big shock and awe if it's something that we can do once Veronica finds some steps, maybe, since because you do live right here, it would be, and you do have those contacts within conservation and within, I mean, obviously the Squanicook River Rail Trail and within your neighbors themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
So Jen's doing the community outreach for the Jeff Street bike lane.
Be surprised if there needs to be. I wouldn't be surprised if there needs to be a public hearing.
That's very possible. Yeah.
For the neighborhood. That's what they did when they did School Street and put that island at the end of School Street.
Okay.
You know, and the neighborhood showed up and said, yeah, we're good with that.
And so maybe we want to do a public hearing. Let me check into that too. For all the bike lanes, you know, for making Jeff Street one way, and then for community input on all the bike lanes.
Maybe so.
Will this require any permitting from planning or no?
I don't know, Beth. If you want to check into that,
Okay.
we need permitting for bike lanes. Eric might be the person to talk to
Yeah.
about that. Or
Okay.
maybe Jim. I'm not Jim Smith. I'm not sure.
I think Eric.
Eric would know. He's
Yeah.
on everything. He's helping to keep us straight on this. So, all right, community outreach for all. And Beth, you will check on permitting for bike lane.
Okay.
And Emmy, you're on my list for pedestrian crosswalks.
I'm in it.
All right. Beth, permitting for bike lanes. All right. Is there anything that I'm missing?
I don't think so.
So I was going to check with Margaret. I'm going to send her the abstract and the new picture, and I'll write up our, who's doing what going forward. And I was going to send her an email just saying, hey, what are our next steps with you? When are you available for another meeting? She was so helpful. I mean, so when are you available for another meeting? What are our next steps with you?
I'll make sure you get it if you're not already on the email run.
So, who do I need to add to my email list? I made an official list so I don't miss anybody because it keeps getting longer. So I should put Bonnie on that, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
All right.
So she's with the town, so it's B Fitzpatrick, and then it's the .gov.
Yep. She comes up when I
Oh, good.
autofills. She autofills.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's in the wet mass trails too.
So anyone else that I should put on? So when do we want to meet again as a group? How does I don't have any more meetings, set up right now, but I should probably get one or two set. We need some time to work on the things. Elisa.
When you drop your new map or abstract, it would probably be best to send it to me and I can just double check.
You are on our official distribution list.
Okay.
I added you. So you're going to see everything that we get.
Right, because I would need to pass that on to the full commission as well.
Okay. This is a work in progress. The date when this has to be submitted by is February 26th. So, yeah. So we need whatever we ask for. We want this to be successful. So we just need to work with everybody and make sure we've done our homework to get it done.
It's a terrific effort on all your parts.
What works for another meeting?
Listen, Tom.
Thursday or Friday?
Yeah, either or is probably fine.
Pardon me?
Yeah, any of those is fine.
So what I'm going to do to reserve time with Hartley, I'm going to do Thursday morning because I'm available Thursday morning. I'm also going to set up Thursday afternoon. I know Beth doesn't work Thursday afternoon, so I hesitate or Friday afternoon. So I hesitate to do a Friday afternoon. Should I just go with Thursday morning and we'll see where we are? All right. And I'll talk to Margaret too. Thank you, Adria. I see your message in the chat. So, all right, I think we're all set then. I'll get out the new stuff to you. I'll set up another meeting with Hartley. So Hartley, you're going to be getting email from me and we'll go from there. All right. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the snowstorm.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.